I'm certified in the SAP BI, certified in SAP HANA, and undergoing my third implementation on HANA, the third project. Okay, so if you have questions, we can raise your the icon hand over there, or else you can use the chat box to raise your questions. You can even unmute your microphone and raise the questions. Okay, so over here in the demo session, I'm going to walk you through to the list of the topics that we're going to cover in our training program, and then later on move on with other discussions. Right. So here in the first slide over here, we're going to have an overview on the SAP HANA to understand the background information about the SAP HANA, the high performance analytical appliance. Then we move on into the components of the SAP HANA, the entire appliance, where we talk about the HANA server, the HANA database, the HANA Studio, the lifecycle management, and many other SAP components, and the subcomponents. And lesson number 2, we move on understanding the hardware vendors who are authorized by SAP to provide the hardware database. Then lesson number 3 is where we try and understand the architecture from 6 different perspectives. So we start over with the appliance architecture, where we have separate layers, say for example extraction layer, and then processing layer and presentation layer, like that. Then 3.2 is the database engine. In the database engine view, we're going to be understanding the areas pertaining to the database process flow. Then 3.3 is the data loading view, where we understand the other peripherals, the other extractors for the structured sources. Right? So we have SLT, which stands for SAP Landscape Transformation Replication, and likewise the BOTS. So the data loading perspective. Then data modeling is another area where we try and focus the activated data models, right? The reporting and the administrator view. Then lesson number 4 is the system landscape. This is where we understand how these systems are to be interconnected, what are the options available with the customer's existing infrastructures, say for example SAP customer with the BW, SAP customers without the BW, non-SAP customers, then non-SAP customers with BODS, SAP customers with the BODS, like that. Certain combination of the source systems, right? The landscaping over there. Then lesson number 5 is all about the SAP standard server sizing guidelines, where we have the t-shirt based servers like extra small, small, medium, large, extra large servers. We try and understand that from the definition perspective, and also understand the pricing of these servers. After that, lesson number 6 is the data provisioning. We understand the concept of the BODS and the SLT over there. Then we move on to the intensive area of the design and development by first understanding HANA Studio. And over there we will be understanding the features over there, the terminologies that we're going to learn, and how we actually perform design data models, right? So lesson number 8 is all about data modeling, where we first take up the master data attribute views, and then we proceed with the transactional analytic views. Then we move on with the unified data models like calculation views. Then we perform transports across the landscape. So this is what we're going to be doing, and then internally within this particular lesson number 8, there are many other activities that we will understand the terminologies like attributes, measures, calculated attributes, restricted measures, calculated columns. There are many other areas that we're going to focus within this lesson number 8. It will be more intensive for the developers. Then after we are through, then we proceed with the transports. Okay, transport meaning from the development to the QA and likewise to the production. 3-system landscape kind of a transport scenario where we first have the export files to be generated and then log into the next system to import it. Okay. Then lesson number 9 is the general overview about the existing reporting tools from the business objects. Then 10 and 11 is about the user integration and the single sign-on. So here we proceed with lesson number 12, where we will be learning about the system administration areas, and we try and cover the guidelines that will be performed by the hardware vendors for the client installation, right? For the operating system installation, for the HANA Studio installation, and most importantly, the HANA database installation. So we'll understand the sequence of the steps over there. Then we move on understanding how the enterprise server is configured in terms of scale up or scale out, the distributed system handling, and likewise we move on to the landscaping of the distributed systems, understand the disaster tolerance mechanism, say for example power shutdown or a network failure or a disk crash or all those. So how does the system recover? What is the mechanism of the recovery? Is it a hot standby or a cold standby? And then we move on understanding the concurrency control in the database. Then persistence layer, backup recovery, another area that we will be trying understanding that. Then lesson number 24, again we come back to the SLT technique. We understand the architecture of the SLT, the process flow, and the transformation capabilities over there. Then lesson number 25 is a business case where I'll walk you through with the profitability analysis to try and understand what is COPA first, and then how we have these tables, how we go back into a reverse engineering to identify the supporting tables of the COPA operating concern, and how do we have the data models created in the HANA database, the HANA Studio. Then lesson number 26 is all about the security and the authorization, where we try and understand the security categories. Right? So we have the analysis authorization, then system authorization, then SQL authorization, and then package authorization. Now these 4 authorization classes will be distributed across multiple roles, role to be assigned to the users. So we have that over here in lesson 26. Number 27 is all about solution manager from the SAP. How do we try and perform the HANA implementation, whether it is a pilot project or a POC, proof of concept, or even an end-to-end project. How do we leverage the solution manager features over here to have a successful implementation? Number 28 is one of a special case study where we try and understand the SAP BW on the HANA database. Number 29 is rapid deployment solutions. Now the rapid deployment solutions are comprising of the SAP delivered data models exclusively for the HANA. Right? Say, for example, you have enterprise performance management, EPM solutions, or we have procurement solutions, buy and sell solutions, inventory solutions, logistics, financial solutions. So all these solutions across the industries and sectors and line of business, you'll have the rapid deployment solutions. Right? So this we try and understand over there. And then finally, the certification examination preparation. So here we will be able to understand what is the examination pattern, how many questions are there, what is the pass percentage, what are the questions that already been raised in the exam centers across the globe. We'll try and understand that. Lesson number 30. So this is the overall list of the topics that we're going to cover in the training program. And just to quickly preview what we have with some of the screenshots, I move on to the next slide, where this is a overview of connectivity and the process flow that's going to happen into the SAP HANA. Now, within the SAP HANA, you can read over there in-memory computing. Now, the in-memory computing is where you have calculation engine, planning engine, and the relational engines. Now, these engines are going to drive the entire computing of the data which is available in the HANA in terms of computational formula, in terms of consolidation, summarization, aggregation. Many other features will be driven by the IMC, the in-memory computing, and it's an in-memory computing engine. Now you can see to the left-hand side there are source systems. SAP source systems can be connected, and the data can be replicated over to the HANA database using some replication techniques. Then database, another source, RDBMS or a DBMS, they can be replicated. Even SAP BW or any other non-SAP OLTP systems, you can perform the data to be loaded into the HANA database. Now, after the data arrives in the HANA database, there are many activities that we're going to perform as a HANA developer, HANA consultant. We're going to pull that up as data foundation. We're going to identify the schemas for certain business processes and sub-processes. We're going to do the structuring of the schema and then structure the packages. We create the data models on top of that, and then we are able to connect with the reporting tools. Now, the reporting tools will be at the presentation layer, and these reporting tools can be the business objects portfolio reporting tools, or it can be other non-SAP reporting tools like, say, for example, MicroStrategy, or say Microsoft Excel, or even the generic Crystal reports, or even Cognos reporting, right? So you have those reporting tools. Now, these reporting tools will communicate with our data models in HANA through certain interfaces, certain adapters like ODBC, JDBC, and BICX. Now, moving over to a little, detailed view over here, you can see the architecture of the HANA appliance. Okay, so here if you start from the lowermost, you can see the source system layer over here. Now, the source system layer, SAP, non-SAP, any other third-party OLTP, like, say, for example, Teradata, or any other Oracle database, right, or any other OLTP system, you can connect it. Now, once the connection has been established, you have the extractors over here, the extractors, which is going to perform the extraction of the data from these sources, right? So you have a source system layer, and then you have an extraction layer. Now, within the extraction layer, there are three extractors provided, which are authorized by SAP. One, to the left-hand side, if you can read the real-time replication services, it is from the Sybase replication. And the second one over there, right there in the center, the SLT, it stands for SAP Landscape Transformation. And the third one to the right is the data services from the SAP Business Objects Data Services. Now, these three extractors have their own offerings. What kind of extraction they can handle, what kind of source system are they able to extract the data from, and what kind of transformation capabilities they have, and what are the targets that they can load it, right? So these are the different extractors. In our training session, we're going to discover the internal definition of these extractors, the limitations and the advantages, and try and perform a comparative analysis between these three extractors, and then later on come out with the total understanding that which extractor is best suitable for particular customer, and likewise try and compare with another customer infrastructure. Okay, so that's your extraction layer. Now above the extraction layer is the data processing layer, right, where we have the in-memory computing engine. Now this particular engine is going to drive the entire process of the data in this particular database. It can be in terms of data replicated. It can be in terms of the data internal processes, and then or else data being retrieved out of the database for the reporting purpose. So here you have two compartments, the calculation and the planning engine, where the calculation engine will try and do the calculation of the calculation views, calculated measures, calculated attributes, calculated columns, and even restricted measures. Many other things is going to perform. And the planning engine here, where you have certain planning applications, in-memory apps that you can connect on top of the HANA database for the rolling estimates or forecast or the kind of a demand plan, right? So for all those planning functions and planning areas, you have a particular planning engine over there, right? So these two are the calculation and the planning engine. On the other side, you have the relational engine, which is, of course, the row and the column store. Now, in the HANA database, all the data, the tables that we replicate is going to arrive here in the column store. Using these column store tables, we develop data models depending upon the scenario, depending upon the complexity, and of course on the volume of data that we're going to perform the data modeling, right? Now, we have also the row store area, which is going to be more of a line item detail information, and more of a detailed kind of information will be available. And column store, we have all the aggregated and the summarized data. And the row and the column store are again connected. Right, so we'll have more internal discussion when we move into the database engine in our actual training program. Then above the IMCE is the design layer, where we use HANA Studio. Now this particular HANA Studio application will be connected to the database, and here you have a particular information modeling application. Likewise, you have administrator application, lifecycle management application. There are many other applications, out of which the information modeler is for the developers, where they design, create the packages for a particular business process, say for example sales and distribution. So for a sales and distribution, what are the data models required? Say for example, the sales performance across specific regions, so you have different data models to be created. Likewise for the procurement, likewise for the other processes. Okay. Then the other application is the system administration, where we work with the security objects, with the authorization objects, then have the roles created, roles to be assigned to the users, and all the other activities for the transport. So we will be able to use the login and then perform all these activities step by step. Now after the data design layer, you have the final presentation. Now the presentation can be in terms of a direct connectivity to our data models, or else through a universe, right? Through a relational universe, which is of course another semantic business layer that can be developed on top of the data models, and these universes can connect to many other business objects reporting tools, like say for example Cursor Reports for Enterprise, Explorer, or Webby, or even dashboards. Right? So this is what we have as a structured layer for the architecture. Okay, so I move on to the screenshot of the SAP HANA Studio. We all will receive our individual system access, and using the system access we will be able to log in, and then we can see this is the landing page, and where you have the information modeler. Using this particular screen we will be able to create a package and create the attribute views, the analytic views, the calculation views, and work upon the security objects like the analytic privileges, and have certain procedures if required, like that. And there are many other mass activities. Say, for example, after you transport, there are some post-import steps. Now, these post-import steps include the validation and the activation that you can see to the right-hand side over there under the content. Then migrate function over there. The migrate is the multilingual features, and then you can see mass copy over there. This is where you have all those RDS, the rapid deployment solutions. If your customer has already purchased a particular industry or a sector line of business rapid deployment solution, it will be visible under the mass copy. So all you need to do is simply download it from there, activate it, and you have every data models provided by the SAP as a standard. Using that, you can customize it, and then you can immediately deploy it. Right, so this is what we have as a quick screenshot. And of course, we're going to log in into the system. We're going to see each of these areas. And this is just one application. Likewise, there are other few applications like the administrator console, the lifecycle management, and even debugging areas. Okay, I have a question from Sulochana. Okay, all right. Okay, so moving on with how we actually perform the data modeling in HANA. This is how it looks like, a kind of a simple star schema where you have a data foundation right there in the center. You connect it with the multiple attribute views, and the way we connect this is like a primary key with a foreign key relation, and in order to have that we will be able to we should be able to have certain key attributes that should be connected to certain private attributes for the data foundation. So all these terminologies we're going to understand first, and then we'll log in and then design the data model, which might look like this. This is the general format, like a star schema. So once we start with the design and the development, we will be also able to perform all those creation of the data models graphically, where you drag and drop, and then you point connect, and then deploy it. Right. So this is another example. This is for the calculation view, where we have a union function over there. Now the union function can perform a union between one business process with another business process, like sales with the finance, like that. So we can combine them together and then understand what is the profits of these customer groups across these regions in these months, like that. So you have the union function as well as the intersection function, right? So these two available under the calculation view. Now the calculation view can be developed graphically, likewise. Right, so it's more of a graphical interface, and for each of these information models that we're going to design, there is a guideline in our training materials. You will see the step-by-step guideline. With the help of the screenshots, you will be able to perform and develop your own data models. Right? So here you have first to set the parameters, select the tables, join them together, select the attributes and the measures, the calculated measures, restricted measures, connect them together, and data preview. Right, so this will be for all the information models that we will develop in the training. So once you are through with the data model creation, and then you have an option to preview the data. Now preview the data, over here you have a graphical representation, and here you will be able to see as is how it will be presented in the reporting, in the presentation layer. You just need to drag and drop the attributes in the attributes box, the KPI measures in the KPI measures box. Like that, you see a graphical representation. Okay, so after the data preview is okay, you are able to reconcile with the source system, the values are matching with the source and in the HANA, then we proceed with the transports. So first is to export it and then import it. Now here we have another separate session which is dedicated for only for the transports. We will be able to learn that, a training program, right? So that's what you have as an overview process flow. I have just picked up some of the slides over there. Of course, we will be overgoing through all the individual topics. Okay, so here are some of the initial customers who have gone live. And if you see from the CPs, the consumer products, you see Colgate-Palmolive, then you see Procter & Gamble, P&G over there, CEDC over there, the Medidata. From the manufacturing sector, you see Bosch, Siemens, Healthy, right? And then BASF is another area where they have gone for the SLT, and then they moved on to BODS like that. Then on the energy sector, you have Centrica, where they have implemented an RDS, the Rapid Deployment Solution for the energy sector. And that is smart meter analysis, a smart metering RDS. We'll talk about all those RDS offerings in the training. Then communication and media sector, you have T-Mobile and Kende. Then services, you got Deloitte, Infosys, and NRI, which is Naruma Research Institute of Tokyo. They never had any SAP system at all. They were a non-SAP company. They never had any SAP infrastructure. So the first SAP thing that they went with was the SAP HANA, where they were able to leverage the real-time reporting capabilities from across multiple RFID units and then replicate them in the SAP HANA database and report them on the real-time basis to the reporting layers. Then technology, you got Intel Corporation, Lenovo, Cisco, and Adobe. So Lenovo over there and Cisco, they have their own case study. We will be able to study that. And also Intel Corporation, they went with the scale-out approach for the implementation. So we'll first have to understand what is scale-out and what is the difference between scale-up and the scale-out configuration, right? Then at the moment after that, you have some of those few of those customers coming here in another slide, where they also implemented, apart from a standalone HANA system, they also implemented with their own existing SAP system on top of HANA. Right? They try to substantiate their own investment, leverage the SAP infrastructure on top of the HANA database, like for example BW on top of HANA and few of the other SAP components on top of the HANA database. So here are the expanded list of all those customers. So you can see Healthy, Colgate-Palmolive once again over here, right? So that was the standalone system. Here they leveraged the existing infrastructure of the SAP. Likewise, you can see Adidas, Bayer, Yazaki over there, then Volkswagen, Samsung, then many of these. British Petroleum on the other hand, and then Red Bull, they have their own VW systems. They connected the VW to be powered by the HANA database. Then they later on moved on with the other SAP modules. Right? So here And then the extension of these, they have their own phase 2 projects where they are now going to connect the BPC on top of HANA. And as SAP release the other rapid deployment solutions, they're going to have the other RDS also connected. Right? So they are moving phase by phase. So likewise, there are many other Fortune 500 companies across the globe which is going in for the implementation, and the use cases are different from one company to the another company. Example, you have BW on top of HANA, then you have the COPA accelerator, then you have the smart meter analytics, then many other combination of use cases. So each company has their own use case. So we will be able to pick up some of those RDS and understand across 16 industry and sectors where all these line of business actually match with the industries. Right? So we will have that discussion in our lesson number 29. Okay, so having understood a quick overview, I'm just going to log in into the system and then show you how it actually looks like to have a look and feel.
Hi, Param.
Yep.
I have one small question. The training catalog says SAP BW on HANA, but the architecture says HANA sits on top of BW.
No, HANA does not sit. HANA does not sit on any application. HANA is a database, so it will be always below that application.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So it is a database first, and then it's an application second. So first of all, it is a database. So you can connect with any OLTP system, any database to this particular database, and then connect the applications like BW on top of HANA,
Okay.
BPC on top of HANA, ECC on top of HANA, CRM, SRM on top of HANA. HANA is a database.
Okay. So does that mean that how we connect ERP and BW, it's the similar manner, is it?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And how different is HANA modeling from the BW modeling?
HANA modeling, if you learn, it's more simpler in terms of modeling over here. And it's more of a connection with the primary key with a foreign key. Develop the multi-dimensional modeling over here with those attribute views, connect with the data foundation in the analytic views. So here we have a totally different terminology in the SAP HANA, but the concept of the data warehousing modeling remains the same. So either you have the data models in the BI system or Microsoft BI system or Oracle data warehouse system, the data modeling concept remains the same, where you have a kind of a fact table to be connected with multiple dimensions.
So, I mean, like when we have the BW, we follow the star schema for designing the, the data providers. Is there something similar to that in HANA as well?
Yes, you have seen in the screenshot where you saw a star schema concept, where you have one data foundation as the fact table and multiple dimensions surrounding it and connected.
Okay. But I mean, like, is there any standard content? Like in BW, we have the standard content which we can use for reporting. So here in HANA, we use only the ABAP reports, or do we have anything else?
The standard content, I talked about the rapid deployment solutions. That's the standard content. So across the industries and the LOBs, you'll have the standard data models.
Okay.
So the customer has to buy it, purchase it first, and when it is available, you'll be able to see over here in the mass copy.
Okay. And I want to understand how beneficial is it to go for HANA instead of using BW aggregates?
You meaning about the technology itself?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's more of a career advancement for all the BW and other SAP and non-SAP, even non-SAP consultants, because HANA is going to be, if you see the roadmap that I'm going to take you through later, maybe in our actual training program, the roadmap is all about replacing the traditional databases and then moving up with the in-memory database of HANA, where it can connect to any application, SAP, non-SAP connections. So it will be a good advancement for all of us to understand the HANA architecture and learn the HANA features, so that apart from your existing experience and your technical skills, if you know HANA, then you can connect with any application, SAP, non-SAP. So it gives you a more weightage in terms of your own profile and advancement.
Okay. Sure.
So I had a question, but the lady asked the question, and so I kind of understand that it's a database. So, but one of the questions that I have is, are you going to be able to do any reporting with the HANA, or that the data is just going to come into HANA and then go into BW to be reported on Bob J or BexQuery?
Okay. So you have multiple use cases. You can connect the BW on top of HANA. When you connect BW on top of HANA, the reports will be coming out of the BW system. Now, if a customer does not have a BW system, say for example you have a standalone HANA which is connected to ECC. Now, in those cases, the data models that we have created in HANA will be able to directly connect to the reporting tools and then perform the reporting from there itself. Right, so in the previous PPT here, you will be able to see right here. Just
I have
moving
a
back
question.
to the PPT. Okay, so here
Hello?
you have the reporting tools in which you can connect to the data models and perform the reporting.
Okay, so you can connect the business objects on top of HANA directly without going through the BW.
Correct, absolutely, yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Param, this is I have a question. Like, do you need a data warehousing background for this?
If you have a data warehousing background, it will help you up to some extent. But here we have a totally different data warehousing concept. Say, for example, even though we design a star schema, we will be having separate data foundations. Now, these separate data foundations come in from separate schemas. So here in the HANA, it is slightly different in a concept. So even if you do not have a data warehousing concept, you can learn that new concept here and understand the in-memory data warehousing. So that's where I'm coming from. So the in-memory data warehousing concept is slightly different from the traditional data warehousing. So we will have that understanding, and you can learn that new concept over here.
Does this involve any ABAP development or anything like that, any programming?
Here, since it is a database, it cannot understand the ABAP programming, or else it cannot understand other programming, other application programmings over here. So since it is a database, it understands the SQL script. So here, you will be able to understand the PL/SQL, or else use the existing PL/SQL commands, like for example, select statement, alter, delete, drop, and then execute. So all these select commands, the SQL command. So you can use that, but instead of using it, you have a graphical representation. So you can design data models.
Thank you.
Hey Param, This is Santosh.
Aaron, I have a question.
Yep, go ahead.
How much SQL knowledge or PL/SQL knowledge do you need to have for the HANA system in order to manipulate the HANA system, or in order to understand better the HANA system?
If you are already good in PL/SQL, you can use the PL/SQL commands over here. But since HANA provides two provision, either you do everything graphically or else you can do with the help of SQL scripts. So that provision is available. So if somebody is not good in the PL/SQL, you have the graphical approach. If somebody would like to do a lot of changes and customization, you have standard procedures like, for example, standard functions. Over here, using those standard functions, SQL stored procedure, you'll be able to leverage some of the SQL script functions over here. So we will try and focus both these two areas, either SQL scripting based or the modeling using the graphical approach.
Thank you.
And, one more question, like other than combining multiple databases into one or accessing multi-databases, what is the real advantage of HANA? It's just accessing multiple databases, or is it something related to performance or anything else?
Okay, so for example, if you send a query in a traditional database, say for example Oracle or SQL Server, if you try to read, say for example 50 million records, one thing can happen, either it will time out or else it will give us a short dump. But here, since we have a different structure of storing these data in the main memory, not in the spinning disk anymore, so we have everything in the main memory, and because of that new architecture supported by a multi-core processors with those hardware, we have powerful processors over here like Westmere, Nehalem processors, Sandy Bridge processors. So these processors entirely accelerate the data loading, number one, the entire data processing within the database with terabytes of data, petabytes of data, and then the accelerated reporting with a very fast response time in terms of milliseconds and microseconds. So what we have actually done for the understanding was that we had run 50 million records. We were able to extract that and then even report using the HANA data model in just 2.5 seconds. So it's more of a acceleration, not only in terms of data loading, but the entire performance and cater to the operational real-time reporting. So any business requiring a real-time qualifies for the HANA database.
Thank you.
Hi, Param.
But Param, like how many users basically go with like to have that much of like real-time data, like very hard, like I can understand finance or something, you may need that real-time data, but why we want all the data to be in HANA and to provide real-time data? Like, what is the real-time what real advantage of that?
Now, the advantage over here is to support corporate EDW, Enterprise Data Warehouse. So, and then reduce the complexity of the infrastructure. So you have customers that you can see over here in the screen. Now all these customers, and then many more customers, they are going in with HANA, they are implementing HANA. The reason behind that is customers have a lot of OLTP systems, SAP, non-SAP systems. They have their own customized applications running on multiple areas. So they want to have a simple approach, connect and store it in one single repository instead of having multiple systems. So they have one particular EDW, the HANA database, which is connected, of course, with the applications, right? So first thing is to unify and have a less complex infrastructure, number one. Number two, the maintenance cost. The maintenance cost of each of these source system databases and the applications, if you compare with the maintenance cost of the HANA, there is a big gap. So over a period of time, say for example 5 years or 8 years, the total cost of ownership of the other OLTP systems compared with HANA, so you have HANA as a more cost effective, because HANA runs on the RAM, the read on the read access memory, the main memory, which is cheaper compared to the hard disk drives. So this is what customers are moving forward, and most importantly, the business benefit that you get out of the HANA database. So out of the HANA database, you receive a complete acceleration of petabytes of data with the multi-million records in just a few seconds. Whereas if you run the same transaction in those traditional database, it either gives us a short dump, or it goes on a loop and never comes out, or else it goes for a timeout. So the business benefits over there. And then future applications which require high speed response time, future applications for all the future apps. So customers are moving in that particular direction rather than continuing with the traditional databases. So they are moving with the in-memory futuristic database.
But I'm like, when you say it's like a in-memory, right? So, I mean, if there is a power failure or something, I understand they have some concepts of like save point and logs that based on which you can recover the data. But when you are talking about the data in ECC, like ERP system, right? Like it's a real-time data. And what if you lose any of the transactions? Like how confident are we that we can definitely recover all the data?
Okay, so for the failover, in terms of the deltas and change log, we understand there are save points. Now, save points are not in just one place. They are in two places, one in the persistence layer and the other one in the disk storage. Now, this is within the same structure, the same box. You also have multi-nodes to take care of all the daemon replication services. So you have a separate service in the server to run the daemon replication, so that we make sure that if any power failure or any kind of failover happens, we do not end up losing the deltas, the change logs, which are most important for any real-time replication or any real-time reporting. So within the service, you have a daemon replication service, number one. Number two, there is a hot standby. Within multiple nodes, you have 4 nodes. One node will be the standby of all the other 3 nodes. So you have a hot standby and a cold standby. So even if your persistence layer fails, you can recover it from the disk storage. If these two fails, you recover it from the node. If the node fails, you recover from the other hot standby. So the mechanism is handled in such a way that the operating system controls all these log save points, and not the save points, but also the gap for all the committed transaction it enables to recover. For the non-committed transactions, we can forget about it, because non-committed transactions we cannot recover. Only the committed transactions, whereby the operating system assigns a commit ID for the transaction ID, and within that particular log or the data and the timestamp, it recovers back to the original status. So you have that mechanism happening, and even if the entire system fails, you have a complete recovery option. Now, recovery option is from the page management as well as from the logger. So we have a discussion on that, which in the system administration, either it is a network failure or a power failure or a system crash or a disk failure. So all these combinations, we're going to have that save points happening, as well as the hot and the cold standby with the replication services.
Okay. And Param, last question, like in BW we have this LIS extract. So do we have a similar kind of extraction in HANA as well? Like where we get data from ERP, ECC?
Okay, say for example the alias extractors for the BW, and not just the alias extractors, but there are many other standard extractors of the BW. So using those standard extractors, you can connect it with the HANA database, one option. Second option is BODS 4.0 is equipped with those standard extractors. So either you have a BW, or even if you do not have a BW, you can go with the BODS, which is now equipped with those standard extractors, LIS extractors, FI extractors, many other extractors. So using those, you can have the same concept of the delta mechanism, the same concept of how the extract structure works, and then replicate the data into HANA database.
Yeah, but I'm talking more about ECC on the top of HANA. Like in that situation, like what kind of extraction we have for LIS?
Okay, so in that case, it depends. Number one, if your customer does not have a BW system and would like to leverage the LIS extract structure, okay, then we can propose to have a BODS to do that. Now, if your customer is already running on a BW extractor and would like to connect from the ECC using those two extractors, those LIS extractor, you can take it through the BW, and BW giving the open hub destination towards HANA. This is second option. Now, the third option again is without the BW, you can directly replicate all those LIS application and the cluster tables together into the HANA database and then perform your data modeling. So you have multiple use cases, not just one for the LIS, but also with BW, without BW, still going for the LIS, like that. So you have multiple use cases. We have a particular slide that talks about the renovation, existing infrastructure to be renovated with the BW, with the existing ECC, what if without the BW, and then you have a BODS, what if without the SAP for the non-SAP source. So you have renovation, innovation, and transformation. These are the three phases for any HANA implementation. So we'll talk about that in the program.
Okay, thanks for that.
Okay, any other questions from the other participants?
Hi Param, I have one question. For a client where the SAP, ECC and BW are very mature systems, what is the recommended approach by SAP? Is it like having HANA as a database for BW or having HANA parallel to BW?
Okay, now customers who have gone live with the ECC as well as the BW, what they did is first, in the first phase, they replicate from the ECC towards the HANA. Then they remove the traditional database of the BW and connect the BW with the HANA database. Right? So there are two activities that they perform. Number one is the ECC replication for the ECC, existing ECC, to leverage the mature ECC with the data over there. After that is completed, you have a live streaming happening. Then in order to have the BW, you can continue to connect the BW by removing the underlying database of the BW, connecting with the HANA database. Right? So you have to do a DB migration first and the BW technical upgrade, which can be done over the weekend, so you can connect it. So you can leverage these two together using the same HANA database. So now what is the result? HANA database is the primary database for both the ECC as well as the BW.
Okay, so I mean, from your experience, so BobJ reports on top of BW currently performs a little slow. So does having a HANA database with BW improve that report performance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Agreed.
Okay. I mean, how much time are we talking about? Is it like it improves by 10%, 20%? Any approximate number that you
Yes, yes. Depending upon the portion of data and the complexity, we have an average of 36 times faster reporting in Explorer. You have another entire slide deck which talks about the acceleration in not just in the reporting, but also within the BW, the activation of the DSOs, the loading to the cubes, and then the reporting. So another slide deck will help you understand the entire acceleration that happens if you have those, those tools on top of the HANA database.
Okay.
Okay, so in our training program, we will have a link in which you will be having all those training materials and the reference documents and many other interesting documents will be posted over there. You log in and then you download those documents from that link. So documents, you have a complete library of documents, so you don't worry about that. Plus, if you have your SIDs, you can log into www.experiencesapHANA.com. Right, so in our training, I will just talk about that as well and how to navigate in that portal. Okay, any other questions before we end for tonight?
When are you planning to start the class?
I guess it's going to be started from tomorrow, but you can confirm from the organizers, Kalyan,
Okay.
for the timelines and the exact time of the day, start date.
Sure.
Any other follow-up questions? Okay, so all right, so Sanjay, Prabhakar, you have a question? Okay, so all right, so thank you everyone, and we will hope to meet again in the training program. Good night, and see you again later soon. Bye.